Yes, good evening, class. It's wonderful to be back. It's hot and sweaty. Uh, we are building ForumIAS for the 4th time, getting a premise, putting the tiles, painting the walls, setting up some chairs, then cleaning them just 5 minutes before you come, setting up the mics. This is the 4th time it has happened. And every time this has happened, the success rate of the batch has been the highest. So that's good news for you. So before we begin today, let us all stand in solidarity and in prayer with the 4 students who lost their lives in this area for a minute, and let's silently pray for them. All the students and members of the staff, please. All right, you may sit down. All right, so I think today is Teachers' Day, and there could be no other day better than today to resume classes. So we start today. So all of you are in the foundation. So I want those who are sitting in the back to come front. Yes, आगे आ जाइए जो पीछे बैठे हैं, जो भी पीछे बैठे हैं, आप लोग भी आगे आ जाइए थोड़ा सा, जो भी पीछे बैठे हैं. Let us have, remember, till graduation, even if you are the back bencher, you can still be a front bencher. After graduation, it will be very difficult if you are a back bencher then to become a front bencher. It will be very difficult. So leave your college days behind, leave that small little association group that you have in the back who has a parallel world while the class is going on. Isn't it? You have broken cultural, financial, geographical, and gender barriers to be in one of the most expressive places in New Delhi. So let us make full use of the resources that we have. Let us not squander the resources that we have. Let us not waste, and let us not want more. Isn't it? So I believe that in this batch, all of you are preparing for 2025 and 2026. Some of you may be preparing for 2026. While everything has been said before and may have been said multiple times, especially by some of you who may have followed me, but from what I can see, a lot of you are young. So when we take sessions, at least ForumIAS has this problem that if I take an interview session, you will have people sitting outside on the chairs, the class will be full, no breathing space. But when I tell young freshers, then what happens is that they don't know ForumIAS. So therefore, you will have like 5 people. So it's difficult. But then even if we have 5 people, we try to do a good job, and that is what should be done. So those of you who are preparing for 2025 or later years, there are a few things as we reassemble back. Some key principles that all of us have to keep in mind. I may have oriented you in the first class to some of you, and we felt that there is a need to reorient and re-immerse you back. I understand that online classes for an extended period of time would have led to some sort of attention deficit. What we observe is for a large number of students, the learning outcomes also end up being poor for some. Unless, of course, it completely depends on what suits you. But when you're here and if you have the opportunity to, my one request to you is that make sure that you attend every single class, make sure that you write every test, no matter what. You may have heard of several stories from several students. For example, last year, if you may have heard of a student who cleared it in the fifth attempt, Miss Natasha Goel, rank 175, IPS. So if you heard it, then she has nearly done every module that you are doing. Barring maybe one or two modules she may not have done. It's just that she did it after her fourth attempt. Some of you are yet to write your attempts. My purpose of telling you that is, at this juncture, you will always have the feeling that it is humanities, and when you are studying humanities or social sciences, you will have this massive seduction of doing it on your own. And quitting what is being taught in the class, noting it down, but being absent-minded in the class and thinking that I'll do it later. I want to remind you that that later never comes. Sometimes a lot of students think that I'll do it in the end. And then what happens is they realize that the end has come too soon. So the first principle of your preparation has to be that what has to be done today has to be done today. What was to be done yesterday was to be done yesterday. Let us not import a lot of yesterdays into today. That's one lesson. Which means let us not have backlogs. If there is anything that is to be done today, and if you make a mistake today, then you will suffer from what is called the problem of backlog. And I'm sure that some of you may be suffering from it. Some of you may have built piles of notes and written a notice around it that this is the backlog desk. Some students do that. They buy a separate desk and keep all the notes, and they call that is my backlog desk. So some students do that. I see that. Some students take 2 seats in the library. On one seat, they keep the active books. And this is the other seat, which is the heavier one. I says, what's this for? Oh, so this is the backlog desk. I need 2 seats. You will arrive at that situation just in a few months' time if you don't clear it up. You don't have to study too much, but outside the classroom, you have to study at least 6 to 8 hours. And that has to happen every day. Even if you have the tendency to study 14 hours on one day and 0 on another day, I can tell you that to be successful in this examination, you have to be above average every day. If you are not excellent, we do not need excellent. You have to be just above average, but that above average has to happen every day. And I can also give you a tip, given the few thousand students that we have in services. So you ask them, तेज कौन है? They'll say, sir, in civil service, if you are above average every day and in everything, every matter, then you'll do excellent. You have to be above average with respect to your empathy with the people. You have to be above average with respect to your productivity, which is the amount of files or the work that you do on a daily basis. You have to be above average with respect to the new initiatives you take. If you are too excellent, then there's a problem, which means you are taking too many new initiatives but not following what is already existing. You are not able to do that, not able to do justice to that. And you also have to be above average in managing family expectations. If you mess up on that front, not able to give time to family, then that also creates a problem. Also your health, which is a stupid topic to talk about to people who are in their 20s. Remember, 10 years from now, you'll realize that what you take for granted in your 20s has to be worked for in your 30s. All right, but that's a lesson for another decade, not this one. So lesson number 2 is that while what was to be done yesterday was to be done yesterday, don't bring it today and try not to at least. What is to be done tomorrow is to be done tomorrow. What is to be done tomorrow should not be done today. A lot of people try to do today what they should be doing tomorrow. And when they try to do that, they miss out on what is to be done today. Don't get me wrong. I have no problems if you are able to do something tomorrow, importing it into today. I do not have a problem with that. But that if it comes even at a 10%, 5% or 1% compromise to what was the job today, then there's a problem. And problems cannot trouble you a lot. Problems will come and problems will go. But when you keep doing that over an extended period of time, then you have something else. What is it? You have a family of problems. All of you know how to deal with family. So now you have a family of problems. You can deal with one of the members, but when the whole family is sitting, boy, you got to get married. Right? Or whatever they want you to do. right? So you can deal with one problem, but if you do an extended period, you will have a family of problems. And when you have a family of problems, that is a point where you will become directionless. Lesson number 3 for today is, that some of you may be in the morning batch, some of you may be in the evening batch. There'll be days when you probably do not have a class, or probably there'll be days, those of you especially in the morning, evening batch. So morning batch people have one advantage. They know what to do when they wake up. Right? Dimag nahi lagana hai, class jana hai. But those who are in the evening batch, if you do not know what to do in the morning, take the newspaper and write 1-page notes. That's what I do. Since morning, or since the past 2-3 days, I was told that we have 100 problems to solve. This morning I woke up at 4 o'clock and I made notes, 1-page note summary of the today's newspaper. That solves nearly half the problem. And when you do that, you'll realize that everybody told you that, sir, we have 100 problems. You'll realize that 50 of them are gone if you just read the today's newspaper. Another 20-30 go if you have just summarized it in half a page or 1 page. So therefore, make sure that when in a doubt, you don't know where to begin, because there are just too many subjects, too many books, and everything is half done. Right? And when you, so the best way to begin when you have no clarity is to open the newspaper, spend 45 minutes, 1 hour, or if you're a complete fresher, then you may sometimes end up spending maybe 90 minutes. But over 90 minutes, it means there's something wrong. I would also like to emphasize to you that why there is a certain way how we think and how we train you. So some of you may say, sir, instead of reading the newspaper, I watch some daily news website or series. Now, because when you're coming to Forum, my assumption is that you have come here not to study, but to clear the examination. When we founded Forum, we had one clarity, that let us not be ashamed of calling ourselves a coaching institute. We don't call it an education company. Maybe tomorrow we will, but today we call itself a coaching institute. So coaching institute does not only perform one function, that is teaching. All right, you have to be trained for writing the paper and clearing the paper. That will require n number of skill sets. You will have to develop those skills. Some of the skill sets, such as covering the whole syllabus, having a skill for having written the whole syllabus, will come from attending classes. Is this clear? But that's just one skill set. You will also have to learn the skill set of revising multiple times the same thing. Nearly all of us will love to read a new book. I had the opportunity to travel, so I finished 2 books on the flight. 2.5 hours time I got. I finished 2 books on the flight. They were both new. You asked me to read the same book, probably I would not be interested. It would take me 5 flights to finish 1 book. But in a to and fro journey, I was able to finish 2 new books. Why reading the newspaper is so important? I'll tell you an interesting story, which will probably assure you. So I was taking mock interview for a student. He's got an Indian police service. So I asked him, why civil services? Now, your answer will evolve over a period of time when you first begin your journey, by the time you finish your journey. And then broadly at the end of your journey, you'll agree to my answer. But not now. At right now, you'll find my answer outrageous, but that will help you get marks. And we are very clear that when you're coming here, you should score well. All right. So I asked why civil service. He said, sir, I had a harrowing experience, a life-changing experience. I was in coma, almost dead for 30 days. I said, doesn't look like. And if somebody says, I've been in coma for 30 days, you'll probably look at him and probably be able to figure it out. I said, you look pretty healthy. And you're a young man, and people of your age don't end up in coma. I mean, that's after 70s. Right? 30 days, So he said, no, sir. I said, what happened? He said, sir, actually, I said, sir, I had a surgery and I got a septic shock. I'm not sure if there are doctors here, but I'm not sure, so I'll not be able to tell you the exact terminologies. But it was broadly like this. I said, what sort of surgery? So he said, sir, a sinus surgery. Now, my ears were alert. I have a sinus problem. And I was about to have a surgery in 2 months. I said, a sinus surgery and a second sinus surgery in 2 months. So I was a little alert that sinus surgery could send you into coma for 30 days. So he said, yes, sir. I said, what really went wrong? Because now this is alert, because everyone in my family was telling me that you go for, your name is Ayush and you do not want to go for Ayush treatment of the sinusitis problem you have, and you want to go for that treatment. So everybody around was convincing, but I knew that probably surgery was the way to go. So it was not really an interview question, then it became a private conversation, not recorded in the one-to-one session of the student. So I said, what went wrong? How could a sinus surgery went wrong? Without trying to reveal that I was about to have one, and I'd had one maybe 10 years back. So he said, sir, actually I had a lot of cough and cold. I said, everyone in Delhi is going to have it in December, January, February. So he was from here in Delhi itself. So I had cough and cold, and I went to the doctor, and it was the final time. I could not breathe. My nose was clogged, and it would not open, no matter how many Otrivens or nasal clear I used. It did not open up. So I decided to go for the surgery. So I said, what went wrong? He said, sir, the doctor told me some antibiotics and some cough and cold medicines and antibiotics. And sir, what happened is my cough and cold was cured in 2 or 3 days time. However, my date was fixed, so I went for the sinus surgery. And before the surgery, I was lying down before the anesthesia. The doctor asked me a very simple question: did you take your antibiotics? So I was, just before the anesthesia. So he said, sir, yes, it was 5 days. I took it 2 days, and now I'm fine. By that time, the anesthesia had taken its effect. And when I woke up, it was 1 month later. What was the problem? It was the anesthesia that put you into coma for such a long time. So the guy says, no, sir. 30 days later, when I woke up, I saw my entire family and the doctor. Slowly, I opened my eyes. What had gone wrong was the doctor had told me to do not just antibiotics, plus also analgesics and antipyretic. You should know the meaning of these terms because one, it's important for prelims. And 2, someday it will save your life. All right. So what had happened is his fever was gone, or his headache, not fever, headache was gone, and he was not feeling any cold, cough and cold. So therefore he did not take the antibiotics, not even the paracetamol and analgesics. So when he woke up, the doctor told him that when I had given you 5 days course of antibiotic and the 6th day you had a surgery, my purpose was to create an antibiotic environment in your body. It was not really to cure your cough and cold. Okay? And you took it in 2 days, you were cold, and when the cold went, you did not continue your medicine. Yes, so the purpose was to cure cough and cold, not to cure cough and cold, but to build an antibiotic environment. Second was that a lot of you think that the paracetamol was given for reducing your fever, but actually I wanted to reduce inflammation in the body. These 2 criteria are essential if I want to do a surgery. What really happened is this boy, when he goes for surgery, he does not have antibiotics environment in his body, or at least his body is not. And when he has a surgery, there is a bacterial attack. And though he is currently having antibiotics via fluids, the hostile antibiotic environment is missing. So therefore, he goes into some sort of septic shock. And for some reason, he went into a shock for like 30 days. So I've used the terms liberally here, coma and septic shock, but he said that and for a layman's term, I would say he was unconscious for like 30 days. And when I woke up, my life's priority changed. So I wanted to pursue civil services. All right. You could identify him because I asked him what's your biggest fear. It was COVID time. And he said, sir, I have a good smile and I'm asked to wear a mask. So 20 marks will be directed for that only. I could have benefited from the 20 marks. So if you look at 2021 talk, he's there. You could probably identify him from his Colgate smile. All right. Now my purpose of telling you this story is that at some point of time, I may tell you to read the newspaper. And at this point, you will say, कि क्या ही हो जाएगा? Newspaper miss हो गया तो क्या हो गया? Now, when I tell you to read the newspaper, it is exactly the surgeon's advice to create an antibiotic or a hostile antibiotic environment or a hostile bacterial environment. It is exactly the same advice. So some of you will find a shortcut and you will listen to some recorded classes which is teaching you news like anything. I want to tell you a few things. The most important is you are preparing for civil services. The big difference in civil services will be that somebody is from the IAS and somebody is from subordinate services. You know how the world, so the secretarial system of India is dominated by the generalist. That is the IAS. So they will be everywhere. They'll be the head of every department. What do people want after getting IAS? They want many things. But what do people want when they don't get IAS? They only want IAS. At least that's what happens, which is why you'll see some person will come up, पूछोगे क्या करो? बोले सर सुपरिटेंडेंट बन गया हूँ पुलिस में, लेकिन पेपर लिखने आया हूँ, है ना? One time a guy came and he said, सर मैं DFO हूँ भरतपुर में. I said, can you arrange a try for me? सर सब कर दूंगा, पहले लास्ट अटेम्प्ट में आया हूँ, 14 का आपका स्टूडेंट हूँ मैं, 20 में आया हूँ, 5-6 साल नौकरी कर ली है, IAS बनना है. ठीक है? So now what you do is you are being fed into watching continuous videos. Now what has happened is, it's not that you don't know the news, you will know it. Information is available plentiful around you. In fact, we have more information that A, you can process, and B, you need to clear the exam. But what happens is you have not developed good reading skills. You have not developed the vocabulary. You say, sir, and what has happened is a year, one day of watching some news videos and making notes from it versus one day of writing newspaper does not make a difference. But when it is done over a period of weeks, months, and years, then the differences start to show. So 1 year later, what will happen is the learning outcomes will be very different. There is one person who has read, out of 365 days, he has read 300 days of the newspaper, a torturous exercise. And somebody has quickly watched 1.5x पे video देख लिया है किसी ने. Do you now logically believe, from the surgeon's point of view, that there will be a difference in the two candidates? And the second candidate has too much information in his mind and does not know which one is more important and which is less important. A person who has read the newspaper has the same information repeating over a period of time. By the end of 1 year, he knows Israel-Palestine का अगर question है या article है तो क्या होगा. 80% articles will have war reporting. Only one article in 100 will have an analytical scope. We only need the analysis. We never need the war reporting. A mistake that you may make as a beginner. But that's not where the problem ends. There are two more problems that you have just by missing that activity. So he says, sir, I've not read the newspaper, but I'll be doing current affairs from a magazine or from classes. And that will cover it up. You can cover it up. And that's not what my worry is. You can cover it from the magazine, you can cover it from the classes. But I know that when at the end of the paper, before your optional exam, which will happen just in 15 days from right now, you will come and say me, sir, GS paper 4 है ना? मैंने क्या लिखना छूट गया? नहीं सर, पढ़ना छूट गया. So what happened is you skipped the opportunity of developing the fast reading skills that is A, necessary to read the long case studies questions, and B, that is necessary for your job. You will need this requirement in Labasna, you will require this as a collector's job. The difference between a IAS and a subordinate service person will be कि IAS अगर एक फाइल के सामने बैठा है और एक subordinate services वाला बैठा है, then the expectation is that the IAS has read it. By which you mean to say the cabinet minister asks a question, he will not be fluttering pages. That is the expectation that is set. And from subordinate services, the expectation is a little lesser. आप उनसे ये नहीं बोलोगे कि उसमें क्या है, कहेगा देख कर बता दीजिए थोड़ी देर में, क्योंकि आपने पढ़ा नहीं होगा, 100 पन्ने का है, आपकी भर्ती अलग हुई है, और जो IAS है उनकी भर्ती they are chosen as the best. So this problem you will have. And if you have not read like young chapters कि किस तरह भागते दौड़ते आए हैं, रील्स देख रहे थे गाड़ी में भी और कैबिनेट की मीटिंग में आए हैं, then they have not read it, तो थोड़ा सा डांट खाने का होता है. और अगर सीनियर प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी रहे तो कह देंगे आपका चयन कैसे हो गया, कौन से साल कौन से बैच के हैं आप लोगों के समय लगता है पूरा बैच ही खराब आया है. That happens. So that's what the reason why you should read the newspaper every day. Right. The fourth thing as you begin your journey or re-begin your journey is that you have to learn to do same things at the same time. I mean, your schedule cannot be something like, when did you wake up? And the answer is, jab aankh khuli, tab. You are here not on a vacation. You are almost, what you could say, is on a study leave. What does a study leave mean? It does not mean leave from studies. Some people will say, sir, ये study leave है मेरा, which means leave from It does not, a study leave is not leave from studies. A study leave is a leave which you take to study. So I'm sure that some of you may have taken some time off your college to study for civil services. Some of you may have taken some time off employment opportunities or any other job opportunities so that you can study and prepare for civil services. So what is important is to realize this massive difference between a vacation and a study leave. A lot of people sometimes do not understand this difference. And more importantly, if you have friends who are not preparing for civil services, never let them think that you are on a vacation. You can say, I have on a leave from work or from employment or from the labor market, from choosing a job, because I've come to study, and that means at least 8 hours of studying. And if 8 hours of studying, if you are able to do beyond the classes that you have, you will not be left with much energy. Probably you will need rest and you will need exercise. At least 6 days a week out of 7. All right. So make sure that you develop your waking times and your sleeping times have to be somewhat in a certain range. You will have the problem of inconsistency and that email 1 year from now that, sir, my problem is that some days I study 14 hours a day and next day I have an energy loss, sleeping all day long. I'm giving you this answer on day 1. One of the ways you do is you learn to say no, which means you badly want to study and you say, ki, chalo, 12 baj gaye. Let me now switch off the phone also, switch off the lights and let me sleep. If you have more energy, does not mean you study till 4, unless you can guarantee that next day you will not hamper your schedule. Do not misquote me. Sir has said ki kam padna hai. What I've said is ki you should not let today's work flow in tomorrow. Neither let yesterday's work flow into today. That should not happen. All right. So therefore, you have to learn to develop good habits. I can tell you with the benefit of hindsight, not having developed a lot of good habits apart from the ones that are needed to do my job right. That is, in the first half of your life, you make your habits, and the second half of your life, the habits make you. As cliched as it may sound, you will be quoting us as one of the most important quotes of your life in the second half of your life. You're just in the first one now, or in the, all right. The fifth thing that I'd want to talk about is, whatever you do it with a lot of energy, with a lot of enthusiasm. There is no substitute to enthusiasm. There is no substitute to, and when you put your enthusiasm, when you do a good job, it shows. If you see some Google review of ForumIAS, there is a girl, Google Forum Learning Center, Delhi review. So her name is, I just skipped her name. She secured rank 9. All right. In forest service. And she's writing the mains examination. So what happened is, I got a phone call from one of my students. He said, I'm _AJ. So one of my friends, my batchmates, wants to meet you because she has not been able to clear the prelims examination. Yes. So Prachi, if you see, she has given a long feedback. She has not mentioned the fact that she secured rank 9 in IFOS, which should have helped us, because then, so therefore, so I said, why, that's wonderful. So Prachi comes, and one question she asked me, that, sir, we are all reading from the same book, then why do we not score the same? A very valid question. Probably some of you may have this doubt, some of you may not have this doubt and may have developed clarity. And it was during the COVID time, as in it was a little looking like an apocalyptic world. So what we had done is we had one huge hall and there were just too many people for mentorship. And so we thought that contamination should not happen. So we had gotten those transparent curtains so that the air circulation is limited, and a lot of things we are trying to do as the best we could during those times of COVID, and everything was painted white and people were wearing masks. Some mentors who had some immunity problem were wearing a whole gown. It was scary. And I saw that the whole hall was full, and in the middle of it, I'm also wearing a mask, sweating, not able to breathe, but trying to say something. And she comes up in the middle of the crowd and she says, sir, why do some people reading the same material, same notes, why do some people make it and some people don't? I could not at that point of time correlate that she's recommended by _AJ, 𝐼𝐸 rank 13 of the previous year. So I said, you take two people reading the same chapter, attending the same class and writing the same notes, And I asked her 3 questions. She was able to answer 1 of them. There was another person who was able to answer 2 of them. And the third person was able to answer 3 of them. I said, you all read the same book. It is from the same chapter. In fact, confined to 2 pages of the same chapter of the book. And you claim to have read the same whole book. So do you see the difference that there are 3 kinds of people here? Now what happened is, that was my interaction, and I think that brought a great mental revolution in her sincerity. I mean, it was, so one of the things I can tell you as a mentor, and we brought mentorship to civil services. I mean, in case you do not know, you have like the mentors are there, but this did not exist until ForumIAS came. All right. So one of the things as a mentor, what I'll see is that I may tell you things, but it may not strike you. I mean, the river could be in front of you flowing with water, and you would say, sir, where is the water? I'm thirsty. That could happen. So it may happen that the music is all around you, and yet you cannot listen to it unless you pay attention. All right. So therefore, and she picked it up. She worked very hard. I told her to focus on the forest service examination apart from civil services. And then later, she ended up getting 9th rank. Now, my purpose of, and later one more boy came. So he also, Earth's younger brother, 𝐼𝐨𝐻𝐿, he also got 13th rank. All right, दोनों भाइयों का. ये बच्चे भी थे. My purpose of telling you this was that you may all attending the same class and you may all be reading the same notes. And yet, when I ask you a question, the performance will vary. What do you think is the reason for that variance of performance? Some of you may say that, sir, what do you think? Why does this performance vary? Bolo, huh? Revision. So one thing that you have to remember is that performance will vary. Revision will come later, but the very first time is that when you study for the first time, some people have a lousy study ethics, which means that they will, if you give them a page, there are 3 kinds of people. And this will use a trick that we use in recruitment. And you say that you can read it as best as you can. So there will be 3 kinds of people. One person will come back and say, sir, ho gaya, 1 minute ke baad. Another person will come back after 3-4 minutes or 5 minutes, or sir kahega ho gaya. And the third person will come and he will say, sir, it took me half an hour. So there will be 3 kinds of people. Tino kahenge ho gaya. But when you ask starting question, the one who came back in 2 minutes, he will say, sir, मैंने देखा था, पढ़ा नहीं था. So you will hire him as the lowest rank. ये आगे भी ये करेगा. दूसरा जो 5 मिनट में है, he will answer the topic on which the page was. But अगर if you ask a question from inside, वो कहेगा, sir, मुझे लगता है I will need 1 more attempt. Now that's a profound piece of information for you. 1 more attempt. Rings a bell. Hearing it from so many people. Now you know why people need 1 more attempt? Because when they were asked to read the page, they thought कि यहाँ से question नहीं आएगा. Because they're thinking कि ये page मुझे दिया गया है, लेकिन सर इंटरव्यू में question कुछ और पूछेंगे, है ना? And then the third person will be there, and he will say कि sir, I've studied it, but there are certain parts which I will not be able to answer. Then what do? You don't ask him questions, you recruit him at the highest level in your organization. And that is where, and I think that's a profound lesson for all of you. So if you're thinking of joining the Indian Administrative Service, then you have to fall in the 3rd category. Because then I know that if I ask him a question, A, he knows what he knows, and B, he knows what he does not know. And that, my dear friends, young boys and girls, that is the secret to clearing this exam. It's so beautiful, it will strike to you so clearly around you that if you meet a person in civil service preparation journey, a co-aspirant, if he knows what he knows, there is little glory in it. But if he says that ye mujhe nahi aata, that is the point when you discover that this is the potential candidate. That's how we do it. It's uncanny. And if you start drawing these patterns around your library, you start seeing it. And you will suddenly start to see people in black and white and some gray. The black people, they have not cleared, or they are blanked out. The white, not the color of the skin, what I'm talking about, do not draw it. make a video and say this is what racism is being delivered in the class. You are from a woke generation anyway. So some will appear white, which means they know what they don't know, and some will be gray. What's the problem with the gray? There is sometimes we don't know in the end what it will they be. They may turn black or they may turn white. And but you still, I would say that as a mentor, we still see potential in the gray. In fact, we see most potential in the gray. So they are usually the underdogs. The ones who will clear, definitely clear, the white ones. They know what they don't know. They'll be in the list. But the ones who are the gray, ये ऊपर का रैंक लाता है, सबसे ऊपर का, मतलब 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 मिलाएगा ये. लास्ट में कहेगा, मैसेज करेगा, सर मेरी रैंक आ गई 19, पता नहीं कैसे, IFOS मिल जाएगा, अब लग रहा है IAS कर लेना चाहिए था. पहले से ज़्यादा शायद 100 रैंक आ गई तो दोबारा पेपर नहीं देना पड़ेगा, इसलिए IFOS भर लिया. आप सब कह रहे हैं कि क्यों लिया, है ना. मुझे लगा था 100 तो आएगी नहीं और पेपर दोबारा देना नहीं चाहता था. अब लग रहा है अब तो दे भी नहीं सकता. यू आर अवेयर दैट इफ यू गेट द इंडियन फॉरेन सर्विस यू कैन नॉट राइट द एग्जाम. Alright, and of course the Indian Administrative Service. So those of you will hear it a lot of times, and sometimes search on YouTube. Sometimes you will find a lady who was there in my second session. So I took forum arose from sessions like these. 3 sessions we had taken, one for the interview. The first session was for the interview, and so you may hear of somebody popular. There is a ma'am. You must have seen her videos. So she was sitting in the front bench trying to pull my leg. She had appeared for 2 interviews and there were a bunch of people. So I remember some people. The second interview, I remember, you Google on YouTube sometime. So this candidate is there so she was in my second seminar which I had taken with a bunch of people just like you, and where she said something like, it took me 6 attempts to clear the exam and you have to understand the exam before you clear it. So she had come to forum in the 5th attempt, almost given up. So we made her change her literature option. So she's also the first woman to be awarded a sword of honor in the Labasna. First and only woman as of now. So you can Google it, you can watch her interview. So in the email that when she asked me for a feedback, I had written to her, you are a bundle of mistakes currently and you are 3 months away from changing. And then when I saw her interview on some thing that I was a bundle of mistakes for the screenshot. So I asked her, why don't you do and talk at forum? Then she said, you have too many toppers. मेरा पीछे रैंक है, तुम लोग कोचिंग वाले लोग हो, तुम लोग 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 के पीछे भागते हो. ठीक है. So anyway, she said someday I will, but then that time never came. All right. So therefore you have to understand this examination. I'm not going to tell you that you don't have to do the hard work. But what will happen is, in the end you will realize that there is hard work plus, which means that hard work is the minimum requirement that is needed to clear this exam. There are things other than hard work. Next, I would also want to talk about how among you, what is going to happen right now is, अभी आप लोग सब same रहोगे. You will all be good friends, you will all be same. You will not be able to see differences among yourself. Right? Like school, everybody felt the same. 10 years later, everybody is doing very differently in their careers, in their lives. Right? It happens. So right now, when you're at the beginning of a journey, you'll nearly be at the same level. But the differences will start creeping in a few weeks and months' time. Completely depending on the kind of effort that you're putting on a daily basis. So the daily efforts or the lack of effort does not immediately show up. The results of effort as well as the lack of effort does not immediately show up. But give it a time, give it 30 days, and the lack of effort will show just as much as effort will show. Wait for 3 months and the differences will be stark. Wait for a year and the differences are so huge that for a lot of us, we'll end up saying, मैं पेपर दोबारा पढ़ कर आता हूँ, शायद ध्यान से नहीं पढ़ा था. Because I was too much in a hurry to get the job. That happens every time. And so you said that the guy who took 5 minutes and came back and said, I'm ready, ask me questions. And when I asked them, he says, sir, topic मुझे पता है, शायद ये लिखा हुआ है. And I asked him, how can you answer the question? He says, I think I'll need 1 more attempt. So if some of you are worried that how do I know, then this is the answer to you. He will go back and in this attempt, he knows that ये question पूछा जाएगा. Now he'll prepare. I am wanting to tell you that just by knowing this, just by knowing the three categories of people, you can choose which one you want to be. You can also nearly pinpoint currently which you are. Can you do it? A self-assessment, which you are right now. And you can choose which one you want to be. And that is in your hands. That is not in my hands. See, there are three elements which I believe is important for clearing this examination with a top rank. The first one is that what is the first material that you're reading? I can tell you that what is being taught to you is a foundational material and it is good and it is well curated. I can tell you that I've taken a look at it and very carefully crafted it. That will be relevant. All right. And slowly the material that will be given to you, its level will rise. If you're finding that right now things are difficult, then it's a downhill journey from here. Things will get more difficult. If you think you have less time in a day, wait till December. Then you have no time. And wait till March. The days are longer and you have neither time in the day nor during the night. That's how it happens for most people. All right. So therefore, what I'd say is that whatever time that is given to you, make the most of that time on every single day basis. I can tell you that the first component, as I said, is what are the books, the notes that you're reading has a very crucial role. The second more crucial role, this is probably 33% of what constitutes success. The second most crucial role is the people you speak to. This can be both your mentors who will have a 20% role and your friends and peers who have a 80% role. You, by this time, you'd all agree that unless you're very self-motivated, your day-to-day choices will be guided not by what your teacher has told you, but it will be guided by what your friends are telling you. Isn't it? Teacher ने कुछ बोला, ऐसे करके तो इस कान से सुना और दूसरे कान से निकाल दिया. दोस्तों की कूड़ा एडवाइस एकदम दिमाग में हिट करती है, घर बना के रहती है, right? I'm very sure that some of you may have a doubt whether to come today या फिर online देख लेंगे. And then the decision to come, if you are truly motivated, very self-motivated, then you would have taken that solitary decision. But for a large number of you, the decision would have been guided by कि तू चल रही है क्या या तू चल रहा है क्या? Do you see that influence? Extreme, profound. In fact, while you were waiting in the parking area before the classes, and it was a whole 1 hour duration, the reason you stuck was not probably me. The reason you stuck was, if you had friends who said कि wait कर लेते हैं, अब आ गए हैं तो सुन लेते हैं क्या ही जाता है. That would have a more profound influence on the choices you make, and these choices will culminate into results. So this is the 33% that has another contribution in your success. And the last part is of course hard work. I will not elaborate it in it because if you're sitting here assuming broken so much barriers, I believe all of you will do hard work. But if you think that these are the three legs of the tool, and if all three are not coming together, then the tool will not be stable. So don't think that only hard work is going to cut it. Hard work is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. Who you speak to, whether you have progressive friends, whether they do their job right or whether they abdicate work on every day saying कि इसको कल कर लेते हैं, आज का टेस्ट परसों दे देंगे, ये असाइनमेंट 3 दिन बाद सबमिट करेंगे, इसमें एक क्वेश्चन अच्छा नहीं था साथ में तो बाकी 6 भी नहीं करेंगे. So that will be guided by your friends. Choose your company wisely. So if you see, I would also want you to see sometime the video of Natasha Goel. You may find it demotivating at times, but she cleared it in 1 attempt when she came here. So if you hear her, she will say at least 5 times, all I will say is just do what your teachers do. All I say is just do what your teachers do. Do you see? It wasn't that she did not come to Rajendra Nagar. She came it in her 3rd attempt. She came here in her 3rd attempt. And then what happened is there was a girl in her PG who was writing her 2nd attempt and she did not clear the prelims examination. And when she did not clear the prelims examination, she changed her PG out of guilt or shame. So the communication dropped. But that next year, that neck-weary girl wearing an orange t-shirt was giving a topper talk, living in some other PG. So if you hear her talk, she will say that girl was Meenal Karnwal, who had gotten 35th rank, rising from the ashes after not clearing prelims. So in her third attempt, or maybe second or third attempt, she was advised that forum में चले जाओ. Did she come to forum then? You hear it in her own story. She said, फिर भी मैंने सोचा कि मैं कुछ और कर लेती हूँ. Then that also one attempt was gone, and now she was left with just 2 attempts, and that is when she came. But when she came, she was in the third category. When I asked her to read a book and I asked her a question, she was able to answer it. So if any of you have any doubt, ki sir, am I on the right track? Turn your pages and give your notes to a friend and ask, isse question puch lo. Remember, your commitment to the content has to be such that if there is a book or a notes that you claim to have read, I repeat, you have claimed to have read, then either you should answer any question from that book or nobody should be able to answer. If that is something you can assure, then you're going to clear this examination in the very first attempt. It will only take you more attempts if just to understand something as simple as this, it takes you some time. And the day you understand this exam, then you will clear it. Then probably you will not need me. Then probably you will do it on your own. And the doing it on your own after that phase and doing it on your own in this phase, there's a difference. Do you realize that? The last thing that I want to talk today, so I asked, because it is Teachers' Day and I see very hungry faces today. You have been waiting in the sweat like me. And don't be bothered about the cleaning activities. This is how forum has always been. We have a bunch of students and we have taken a huge hall. Then while the students are sitting, somebody has been putting the tiles, somebody has been fixing the fan, and we've been teaching. That's how it has always been. Forum has always been like this. कि कुछ ना कुछ होता रहता है यहाँ पर. लेकिन उसमें क्या होता है कि जो जितने बुरी क्लासरूम में रहता है उतने ही सिलेक्शंस होते हैं. इसलिए मैं उसको शुभ भी मानता हूँ. तो somebody said, सर नीचे एसी काम कर रहा है, उस क्लास में बिठा दें. तो मैंने कहा सिलेक्शन करवाना है तो धूल में ऊपर बुलाओ, आराम देना है तो नीचे में एसी चल रहा है उस क्लासरूम में बिठा सकते हैं. I don't know how but it works so badly that I so believe in it that I would not let go of it, even if it creates health hazard for me. है ना? But yes, we all made sure that everybody ensures that all of you are sitting in clean chairs. I cleaned 17 of them. I counted in my defense. All right. So we'll try it. Will forum do the best? It will do the best it can. Is that best good enough? I can guarantee you that from this classroom, look at your faces, turn around and look at each other. You will see some of your colleagues taking a topper talk. Some of you will take a topper talk, and some of you will see them taking a topper talk, and then you will start studying, and then next year you will do a topper talk. This is how it happens. All right? Because what happens is, what is the difference between the two, this year gap? When the first time you do a topper talk, in the very first instance, because you listened to your teachers and followed the plan to the hilt, to the letter T, you follow that. Then you will give the topper talk in the first attempt. The second attempt, why it happens is because you may or may not have followed the plan, but then you know somebody who is giving a topper talk, and now you saw them in the class. And when, just like college. So how is college? At least engineering college, I can tell you that how they think in engineering colleges. Every batch thinks that both my seniors as well as juniors are stupid. Is the worst batch. सबसे तेज कौन सा batch है? अपना batch. That happens in social sciences batch as well. Seniors और juniors दोनों को बेवकूफ समझना, है ना? Seniors भी बेकार है, इनकी placement नहीं होनी है. Placement किसी होगी हमारे batch की. और नया वाला batch है ना, बिल्कुल दिमाग से खाली है. तो batch सबसे बढ़िया कौन है ना? पूछोगे क्यों खा रहे हैं, तो यार ना मस्ती करते हैं ना पढ़ाई करते हैं. और आगे वाले क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि प्लेसमेंट का ये तो पढ़ रहे हैं इसलिए बेकार हैं, मस्ती नहीं कर रहे. All right. So therefore, at this point, I'd also like to call upon some of the students. For example, has been doing is we have in the online offline mode. That list there's not is there. So if is watching this, we are satisfied. There in the class. All right. There is if I call out your name, I'm not looking at you, but you can raise your hand. Don't be shy. Yes. And then all right. Yes. Make sure that while these star ratings do not matter on a day-to-day basis, over a period of time, these will start getting frozen. Remember that right now also you have a certain rank. On your head, there is a certain rank which probably your teacher or mentor can see. And that rank can be anything. I'm saying, do you broadly believe that for the 2025 attempt, today also you have a certain rank? And that rank will keep changing every day? But what will matter is, what is the rank just one day before the exam? जो यहाँ पर है आपके hidden, जो आपके teacher mentor को आपकी copy देखकर समझ में आ जाएगा. So all of you have a rank. Somebody may have a rank of 4,50,000. Somebody may be having a rank of 13 right now in the class. But does that 13 rank matter today? No, it will not. Because tomorrow from 13 it will, if you don't work hard enough, you will move from 13 to 1300 the very next day on an all India level competition. And in 1 month time, if you just waste your time, you can move from 1300 to 13,000. Relax one more month and you are outside of 1,30,000. Somebody who's starting with a 1,51,000, no hope today, but he's continuously working. 1 week later, he will move into a 1 lakh zone. कि सर अभी 71,000 rank पर है. ना prelims होना है ना mains होना है अभी तो. And slowly with every passing day from the 71,000, he will probably progress to a 50,000, to a 20,000, then some hopefully to some 10,000. where he says कि सर इसका prelims होगा लेकिन final नहीं होगा. And as the exam approaches, the every day the effort that you are putting, and this will all add up. So remember, your efforts do not matter just before the exam. So if today you studied 1 hour, tomorrow you studied 1 hour, and 3 days, so on the third day, how many hours you have clocked? It's the cumulative effort. It's not like if you have not studied today and tomorrow you study 3 hours, you'll be able to match it. It won't happen. Because after a certain number of days, if they have passed, then those hours do not exist in a day. Everybody understands the cumulative score? A score that is added every single day. So if you have 5 days, by 5th day, somebody has studied 40 hours. Somebody has just gotten conscious on the 5th day. And he starts. He can't clock 40 hours. Difficult. He may probably clock 16 hours, but that will not cut it. So therefore, every day you have a race to win. Civil services preparation sometimes becomes a lonely journey. To succeed and do very well, you will have to learn how to segment your day, which means that this part of the day is the studying part where I'll only study. This part of the day is the part where probably I will take rest and I will not do anything. This part of the day is my tea time, leisure time, where I will have tea and hang out with friends. That is what you'll do. And the trick in succeeding in all the 3 parts is that when you are doing activity A, you are focusing on activity A, not worrying about activity B. पढ़ते समय चाय के बारे में नहीं सोचना और चाय पीते समय पढ़ाई के बारे में नहीं सोचना है. So that is all. I would also ask you, all of you, that as the days pass, make sure that as the days pass, make sure that you read your newspapers well. Make sure that you attend every single class. Make sure that you have written every test. If not on the same day, then at least on another day. But you must write everything. And one more thing is there, that whatever benchmark tests and assignments you're getting, if at the end of the year, academic year, if you know all the questions, and not just the questions, you also know the answers. Because some people take literal meaning of whatever is being said. सर क्वेश्चन सारे याद करके आ गए हैं, है ना? तो उत्तर सर वो वाला आपने नहीं बताया था, मैं पूछना चाहा लेकिन फिर you did not look at me when I raised the hand, right? That tragedy can happen. So whatever is being done to you, your questions and the answers, if you know them, then at the end of the year you'll be sorted. And by corollary, if you don't, then there'll be problem. So we'll get started. From today, we've just gotten started. Prabhat sir will communicate with respect to the classrooms. The classes are resuming from tomorrow or day after tomorrow. When are you resuming? Yes, we will update you on mail because, as I said, we want to get started as soon as possible. 99% chances we'll get started from tomorrow. So wake up on time. For that mail, you'll probably get a last one mail. आ जाओ. The title will be आ जाओ class में. ठीक है? We'll try to do better than that. Midnight तक कर देंगे. ठीक है? So And while you are here, make the most of it. And can we have some refreshment for the hungry faces? All right? Chalo. Thank you, class. Any of you, by the time we have some, what are some questions or any questions that you have for me? No, one thing is there that if you have a holiday, it's perfectly all right that in 7 days, if you are having 0 studies on a certain day, that's acceptable. Even a 0 study is acceptable. When you are studying, don't think about leisure or masti. And when you are not studying, then उस समय बहुत clear रहो. See, I have had the opportunity and the benefit of having worked with some students who very predictably cleared the exam. By predictably, do you understand? मतलब इसका पता है चलो ये sorted है यहाँ से rank आ जाएगा. इसका clear है. इसका क्या है? ये dark horse है. ये उस दिन पे डिपेंड करेगा कि इसका मूड कैसा है. 3 दिन से सड़ा हुआ मूड लेकर ये बैठा हुआ है तो नहीं परफॉर्म करेगा. अगर थोड़ा सा पॉजिटिव माइंडसेट में तो कर देगा ये बच्चा. बहुत डिफरेंट होता है. हर बच्चे का डिफरेंट होता है. ठीक है. सो इट विल डिपेंड ऑन द डे ऑफ द एग्जामिनेशन एंड द कैंडिडेट. मोर देन द डे ऑफ द एग्जामिनेशन, द कैंडिडेट. At the last moment, he's doing everything. It looks like the Mars mission will be successful. And then something goes wrong. A 1-degree change in direction. Can you imagine a 1-degree change in direction in the Mars mission? Half a degree change. 0.25-degree change. You will probably land on another planet. You will end up clearing some other exam. Right? So that 1 degree, I'm often afraid of that 1-degree change in trajectory. Whenever in doubt, when doing more versus doing less, you always do less if you have a doubt. Second is doing too many things lightly or doing less number of things better, do it better. As I said, be the third candidate in the room when you give him a piece of paper and say that, come back, and the guy takes 30 minutes. And I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it. This experiment has been done by me. The third candidate, I will tell you very clearly, I hope he does not watch this because he's senior official now. So he was somebody who had a user ID of modern Ashoka. So as recruiting, one guy comes, I gave him a piece of paper and he says, current affairs का summary बनाना है. He says, हो जाएगा sir. अच्छा इसको कर दो. आ गया, बोला ठीक है सर कर दूंगा. Now कर दूंगा और करने में बेचा बहुत फर्क है. And then modern Ashoka comes. He also came to work after his मेंस था और बोला कि सर इंटरव्यू कॉल आ जाएगा शायद, कुछ दिन काम करना चाहता हूँ. That time we were not planning on having an academy. That's long back, 10 years from now. मैंने कहा करना क्या चाहते हो? मैंने कहा करंट अफेयर्स. बोले सर डिफिकल्ट है. Then I know he is the right person. He got revenue service, did not write the exam. तो he got DANIPS in the first attempt, service मिल गई. Then he decided कि भाई मुझे एग्जाम, मुझे कुछ और चाहिए. और then I said what do you want? IAS. बोला नहीं सर मुझे वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस, मुझे IRS चाहिए. He got IRS next attempt, never wrote the exam. मैं बहुत बार बोला लिख लो पेपर, दोबारा नहीं लिखा उसने. So you know that इसका एग्जाम निकल जाएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि जब बोला उसको कि करंट अफेयर्स समराइज करना है, इसे सर थोड़ा चैलेंजिंग होगा क्योंकि क्वालिटी लाना डिफिकल्ट होगा. एंड व्हेन आई गेव हिम ए पेज कि इसको कर दो, देन ही टुक टाइम, आधा घंटा लिया और बोला कि सर कुछ कुछ तो मुझे इसका कर दूंगा, बाकी का मुझे आई विल नीड टू आस्क यू. देन यू नो दैट ये ज़्यादा दिन नहीं टिकेगा, ये एग्जाम क्लियर कर लेगा और यहाँ से चला जाएगा. है ना. वी हैड आवर ऑफिस इन गुड़गांव, बेसमेंट में छोटा सा एक ऑफिस था. We had 8 people working. ठीक है. Yes. So therefore, don't feel guilty about. You should, if at all you have to feel guilty, you feel guilty about. You plan to do something and then you could not do it. Then that is something that you need to feel guilty about. You could do something and could not do it because of habit or because of a mood swing. Keep your emotions separate from your plans. है ना. And how do you fight your emotions? Don't fight it, but respect it. कि plan ये है और mood बिल्कुल opposite है, और दोनों opposite चीज़ें हैं, but mood has little to do with the plan. Right? क्या है? कहाँ जा रहे हो? क्लास जा रहे हो. Mood कैसा? बहुत खराब है, लेकिन उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. ठीक है. Any other question? You have nothing on your checklist. So one of the ways to do it is na, from right now itself, please have a small diary or a notebook or a checklist. You can have it as an app on your phone, or you can have it, in a journal that you write, and you write a task list. You will soon realize that of the 10 tasks that you have written, you will hardly be able to do, depending on the day, 3, 5, 7 at max. 3 काम तो छूट ही जाएंगे. You will never have a problem. See, if you have this problem of you wake up and you don't know what to study, then it means you don't have a checklist. I'm not even saying a calendar with an exact time. I would not want, if you are not that disciplined, that is not necessary that you, if you're not that disciplined, does not have anything to do with clearing this exam. But, which means that you will do it even if at odd times. That may happen. But then I wouldn't say that you need to have a calendar कि 3 से 5 में ये करना है. मैं कह रहा हूँ have a simple linear checklist. ये काम करना है 3 से 5 बजे करूँ या 5 से 7 में करूँ या 10 बजे की बात करूँ. So have a checklist. If you don't know what to do right now, if you don't know what to do after going back from here, then you don't have a checklist. And if you have a checklist, you will not have an empty one ever, that I can assure you. I've been doing checklists for 15 years now. So you'll always have something जो छूटा रहेगा. You will have yesterday's imported into today. You will not be importing tomorrow's into today. है ना, काम बचा ही रहेगा. Yes, anybody else? The backbenchers? Yes. How to manage optional with the GS? So that is a challenge that you will always have to face. What some people do is, irrespective of what is your classroom schedule, some people do is they keep a day something like 2 p.m. as a cutoff time. And you can swing this cutoff time by 3 hours. That can be depending on how you want to do. 2 to 3 hours is that, let's say you dedicate time up to 2 p.m. or depending on your class schedule, you move that 2 slider to either 5 p.m. something like that, and then one part you do GS, the other part you do optional. Do not try to have a schedule where, so this young student who was in foundation last year and now she's in the residential academy right now. And she had no faith when she was studying in the foundation. उसको लगता था नहीं होगा. फिर अभी उसका पहली बार prelims हुआ. Then she came up with a master plan that I will not do the answer writing focus group. I said क्यों नहीं करोगे? तो बोले मैंने decide किया कि 3 दिन GS 3 दिन optional. तो मैंने कहा कि आप करके देख लो, फिर 1 हफ्ते 10 दिन के बाद बात करेंगे. नहीं, not even 3 days. She said that I will do 15 days optional and then I'll come back to GS. Now what happens is 3 days doing a single subject, you develop a panic, especially when you have 2 months later you have the mains examination. And even right now, you just keep doing one subject for an extended period of time, you will develop panic कि यार दूसरा मेरा छूटा जा रहा है. So therefore, and if you start just do your optional, then you will have this panic कि यार मेरा GS छूट रहा है. So therefore, you will have to give at least, you can keep a counter that यार minimum 2 hours. If you are doing optional full time, then minimum 2 hours. If optional is what you are primarily doing, then you do primary subject all the time, and the secondary subject you do it any time between 2 to 3 hours or 1 to 3 hours. Okay, and when you're only doing GS, then optional you give it 1 to 3 hours. And the calendar that you can follow for it is, if for example, let's say begin from April, May, June, then June, July, August, September is what you can do your GS, and then sometime around October, November is what you can do your optional. If it's your first attempt, remember that you have only one obligation, that finish off 1 optional paper. In trying to do 2 optional papers, if you jeopardize your prelims preparation, then there's a problem. Or you choose to take that time. Sometimes we step back. So when you came to this building, we are on the top floor, right? We are on the 4th floor. Did you see forum का board कौन से कलर का था? था या नहीं था? मैं जब उतरा तो मुझे दिखा ही नहीं. So what happens if you really want to see the forum का board, तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? You will have to step back, right? Step away from the building, isn't it? And why do so that you can see the full building? Otherwise ऐसे देखते रहोगे और दिखेगा नहीं. अभी बोर्ड वैसे है नहीं, है ना? बोर्ड हम लोग कभी नहीं लगाते थे. पहली बार हमने क्या किया कि a little hesitant, so we decided to set up an academy. My father was secretary health. मुझे लगा कोई जाकर शिकायत ना कर दे कि देखिए लड़का आपका ये सब काम कर रहा है. I was a little afraid. So what happened is there was a parent. He came. तो 90 minutes he kept roaming around the building कि forum कहाँ पर है. तो he became very furious and he says कि आयुष इतने पढ़े लिखे आदमी हो तुम यार बोर्ड नहीं लगाते हो. बच्चों के लिए आए थे वो दोनों. Then I told him, he was happy also. मैंने कहा सर इसलिए नहीं लगाता हूँ क्योंकि जिसको पता होगा सिर्फ वही आएगा. Then I'll get a very filtered crowd. बोर्ड लगाऊंगा तो शायद ज़्यादा लोग आ जाएंगे. बट एनीवे उसके बाद हमने बोर्ड लगा लिया था. ठीक है, तो यहाँ भी बोर्ड लगा लेंगे. बट ये भी ठीक रहता है, जिसको पता हो वही आए. दैट्स ऑल्सो वेरी गुड, राइट? सो समटाइम्स द लेसन इज दैट समटाइम्स वी स्टेप बैक नॉट बिकॉज वी आर अफ्रेड, समटाइम्स वी स्टेप बैक सो दैट वी कैन सी द बिगर पिक्चर. है ना? तो समटाइम्स अगर लगेगा मेरी तैयारी ठीक नहीं है तो हम स्टेप बैक करेंगे, लेकिन इट इज़ एथिकली ट्रीटेड एज रॉन्ग if you know that you are going for a war where you will be slaughtered. It is ethically treated as more wrong if you are sending your soldiers on a war they cannot win. Are you aware of this? A general will be tried if he sends soldiers. It's not bravery. It's a crime if you are sending your soldiers to get slaughtered. So if you feel I will need more time, give the examination more time. I know freshers don't like such things. वो चाहते हैं कि कोई उनको क्लास में बताओ और बहुत magically ये बोल दे कि एकदम ऐसे ऐसे हो जाएगा. But what I need is we have come so far because we've told the truth. If you need more time, give it more time. You almost become good at anything if you're willing to give it more time. Most people, like the example I gave you, the 3 chaps. So most people who came back after first minute, कि saying ये पढ़ लिया है, question पूछा तो बोला सर दोबारा पढ़ कर आता हूँ. Why did he come back to me quickly? Because he thought कि जल्दी आऊँगा तो जल्दी जॉब लगेगी, है ना? So I rest my case. आप लोग खुद समझदार हो. टाइम दे देना टीचर्स को, ठीक है? चलो, एंजॉय योर मील्स. ओके, थैंक यू क्लास.